Chemex, the ultimate in hipster coffee.
I love a good Chemex, although I hardly ever use a Chemex. Well, the Chemex, it's like a big pour over that's pretty. It makes a very clean cup of coffee, which almost too clean. You know, in a French press, they just suck. But you get all those oils and residue, and you know, it's like the opposite of that. Like you get, it's got a really nice thick filter. Sometimes you want a little bit of that residue, where it's just a super clean cup of coffee. The nice thing is that the carafe is built in, instead of like having to drip it into one of these. It's just all one system. It's easily the most like beautiful coffee maker. Like it's just, you could set that up somewhere. Anyway, I use a ratio of about 15 grams of water per 1 gram of coffee. I want to do like a medium to a coarse grind. Let's just leave that be for a little bit. Let's see if I can remember how to do one of these. I remember when I first got a Chemex and I got the filter, I was like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? It's just like a square sheet of paper. 3 ends on one side, this on that side. Put your thin end right along that little cone there. It's very thick, much thicker than your average coffee filter. It's just nice and just thick. Do you remember the Big and Tasty from McDonald's? You probably don't. But when I was in like, I don't know, 9th grade, it was my favorite sandwich from McDonald's.
I used to call it the Big and Nasty.
The Big and Nasty. But what I loved about that sandwich was that it was thick. And little did I know that one day that would be a perfect metaphor for a Chemex coffee filter. By being so thick, it's got a lot of paper residue. You gotta get it nice and wet. Big, thick, tasty, and wet. Which are ironically my 3 biggest attributes in high school. I used to do this thing when I lived in Wisconsin called Chemex Saturdays. And I would just have people over on a Saturday, make them a Chemex, we'd listen to music, much like we're doing now, and we'd have coffee and have really intellectual, deep discussions. And I don't do that anymore. That's good. I got some Counterculture again, Fast Forward, which is like a lighter roast from Counterculture. We're gonna do a bloom here. I'm gonna try to get it to around 60 grams. I'm gonna try to not touch those edges, but get it nice and just blooming. I'll touch the edge. It's not my best bloom. Not even close, really. It's opening up those grinds, opening up that coffee so that it's ready to extract. Growing up, my dad always drank coffee. He liked it black. And I wanted to be like my dad, so I would try to drink coffee, but I did it with a lot of cream and sugar. But then eventually, you know, I started to wean myself off, and I would drink, you know, coffee. I mean, there's a time in my life where I considered like Folgers to be good and Keurigs to be cool. But then I started going to Starbucks a lot, and I got a gold card, and I would drink their coffee. And I remember when they introduced the blonde roast, I really liked that. And then I remember one time I said, hey, can I get a blonde roast? And they were like, we don't have it brewed right now, but I can make you a pour over. And I was like, what's a pour over? That's right, I learned what a pour over was from Starbucks. But Starbucks doesn't really do pour overs very well. But I was being introduced to it. It was really when I moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. A little place called Stone Creek Coffee. I have a few of their mugs. I started getting into specialty coffee and like more manual brewing methods, like an actual pour over and a Chemex and an AeroPress. Because before it was like French press was like the golden standard, like, ooh, if you make it French press, it's 1,000,000 times better. But I don't really think that's true. So then I just started really getting into coffee. I got my own pour over. I started making my own cold brew. Eventually I got an AeroPress. AeroPress is my favorite way to make coffee, mainly because it's the easiest. Pour over is probably the funnest if you have the time. And then I started getting into like roast and lighter roast and all this flavor that you can get from coffee, because a lot of people just think of coffee as this like brown stuff that's hot that wakes them up in the morning, but really, you know, coffee is this beautiful, it's like wine or whiskey or really like there's just like the whole story on how they're picked and the farms and then the flavors and how their climate and the things around them affect the taste and the different ways you can roast it to bring out that taste. And I've like given people a cup of coffee before that hated it and always drank with cream and sugar, that didn't even know that coffee could taste that good. And it just makes me sad that it's been reduced to where, you know, if you go to places like Starbucks, people think this is the highest standard of coffee, and like Starbucks is fine, and Starbucks paved the way for what coffee can be now, like, but it's not the best anymore. Coffee is just a beautiful thing, and it brings people together, you know. There's an art to making like a really good cup of coffee. And this is another Stone Creek mug, reinventing Brew City, which is very much known for its beer.
It's got that Chemex on
And
there.
you got the Stone Creek, but yeah, there's a Chemex on there. Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, dude. Delicious.
Excellent. I think I just said excellent. I'm thinking about those boiled eggs.
Excellent.
I love boiled eggs.
This will be the yes still.
Well, I was feeling like I should spend way too much money on chocolate. So I was at Earth Fair, which is kind of like Whole Foods. I got the sea salt and nibs dark chocolate. I got it because of the nibs.
Nibs.
I thought we could pair it. It's 68% cocoa. You know, it's obviously it's direct trade. It's from Madagascar, which is a great film. I think this chocolate's actually based off the movie. We could do a little chocolate pairing.
Ooh.
I often find that chocolate will bring out a whole different flavor. Try this little nib. Ooh. It is amazing what just a little bit of chocolate in your mouth, taking a sip of coffee will do. It's like a whole, dude, you gotta try this.
Okay.
All right.
I got this.
Ethan Amory's got the camera. A little chocolate. See what I'm saying?
That's salt. It like,
The salt.
it does it.
It does what?
It.
It's almost like the chocolate makes it bloom again in your mouth.